Hey, good morning, folks. So we're going to do some artwork today. So give me a second here to check my signal, make sure that we're coming through clearly, and then we're going to get to work. So just 1 second here, checking on my mic volume. Mic check, just 1 second here, checking on my mic volume. Hey, that sounds really rich today. Fantastic. We're doing good. Let me drop that down so it doesn't echo, and copy that link so we can go post on the social medias real quick while we get to work here. I will distract you with my origin story here real fast while I press a couple buttons. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey, what's up? I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, I publish them online, and we're creating an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting called Crystals of Mabar. It's for 7th and 8th level characters. You're fighting necromancers in the Carnwood of Carnath on the continent of Corvair. I've been a DM since 1987. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999 and an Eberron enthusiast since 2004. Started creating content on the DMsGuild in 2018, but I haven't done anything specifically for the Eberron campaign setting, and it is my world of choice when I play D&D. So I figured let's make an adventure to give some love to my favorite campaign setting. Hence Crystals of Mabar. If you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. Here's a bunch of other books that we've already created on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews for you to check out, and if you think they're neat, consider picking them up if you think they could add value to your game. Otherwise, you can support me on Patreon. Here's my Discord channel where we do all our playtesting. Be welcome to kick through. Let me drop this down here to get it out of the way. Let's queue up the Photoshop here on screen, and cool. All right, looks like everything's good. Book cover, we made this one on episode 40 if you want to jump into the Wayback Machine and check that out. But right now we are working on an illustration for the City of Sharn. So for those that aren't already familiar, this is the 16 by 9 format page. The PDFs that I create for D&D on DMsGuild, they're only designed for PDFs. I don't print. I don't see color, so I can't trust that the color in the print is going to come out okay, but at least digitally, I know that what you see is what is here is what you'll see in the final product. So as a result, I don't have to conform to 8.5 by 11 pages or the tabloid 6 by 9 pages, because I don't have to worry about it printing. So I can use a 16 by 9 format, and this is a 12-point font in the text. So when you look at this on a device full screen, you'll see the full page, but each individual column is also 16 by 9. So once it's actually a PDF and you tilt your device vertically, you can just look at one column at a time, which is really useful for a phone. But like if you're using a tablet, or like me when I DM a virtual tabletop, I can have a full screen looking at the entire document, and the devices reinforce and support that use of the text. So I don't see a lot of 16 by 9 format documents. I know it's a bit of a gamble, but this is how I roll. So that was my choice. And let's see here. There we go. Okay, great. So that's how that works. We're working on the Sharn art here, so let me go ahead and just basically get back into it. So we're going to this tower back here still needs lights. We've added basically a grid of lights for the building. So that was to basically as like a texture to apply to each building. So if you're just casually granting that, it's like, yeah, that's a city. So, but like you can see here, we want to characterize this grid of lights so that it's more organic and more natural looking than what we have arranged here. So luckily I have the ability to work on these pieces in the evening now. So when I walk off, when I'm done with camera with you guys during the day, I can work on these things in the evenings or in the afternoons when I'm not actually not actually on camera, which I'm really excited about. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to duplicate that layer. This is how we do. So now we'll fuse these three layers together. So now they're a single tower. And we'll drop the opacity a bit to find the overlaps. Like that. No, not that one, not so much. Let's just edge along here. There we go. And hit the old save button to make sure nothing goes wrong. This is actually calling for a masking layer. So we're gonna mask over. And then we'll mask like this. Then we'll curve this in here. Drop that down here like that. There we go. There, that's proper. So now that we have that set up, we can merge the masking layer. Let's get there we go. There, and then we can apply the masking layer so it affects the entire structure. We can bring this back up to 100%. So we see that little building is now poking out from behind, and it's got a larger window than the buildings that are receding behind it, but it's smaller than the lights in the buildings in front of it, thus achieving perspective. Now let's take an eraser tool, and we're just going to use 10% of our erasing power, and we're just going to kind of just drift down the page. By using 10%, I can do this this radial lighting by having like 10%, 20%, 30%, or like 15%, 30%, 45%, whatever ends up feeling right for the curve of the building with the amount of light that's facing. Although we know that if you have lights in a building and if you can see any of the light, it's going to be 100% strength. this is allowing us to use that rule of lighting of a curved surface being shadowed, starting to create shadow as it moves away from the focal point of the light. That's how we can simulate the cylindrical effect on these buildings, by ignoring that law of light and applying the curved light effect on the form of objects. So, and when we and you can see here, like when we intersperse and scatter the amount of lights on a building that are present, it becomes less noticeable and it adds a little bit of variety. So we're changing the opacity of each of the lights with a subtle eraser to mix up the strength of light coming from each of the windows in the building, and that creates that helps reinforce the curved shape or the curved form of the object without making it just about breaking the light up along the edges, if that makes sense. I'm not wording it good. That's generally how this jives. And to that note, we've got this little gap happening in here, so I'm going to resolve that. By just grabbing this, copy paste, free transform, rotate 180 degrees, and then line it up. Delete along that edge. Merge down. Yeah, easy peasy. Just added a bunch of light. So doing these little scatter patterns like that makes it really easy. I'm going to, I think, take a low opacity eraser here and just pick at the edges a little bit down here just to cut the sharpness of the light so it fades in a little bit easier. I'm going to do the same here. Free transform. This one we're just going to flip vertically. Merge down. See, really easy. Just real easy just to add that depth. But I think we have, and I don't have to, this is spilling into the text over here, so I don't have to really worry about this sprawling block. In fact, I don't even have to worry about these buildings. I'm just overclocking the painting because I like to. So, because this, if I were to frame this, let's go back to Windows and pull open our tools so we can grab our frame tool. Here. If I were to reframe this, it would probably be something like this. Thank you, Timely Timer. Probably end up looking something like that. Let's get out of the way. Yeah, probably. File, new. If I were to make a standalone painting out of it, it'd probably be like something like that. You know, like that's a decent piece of stock art, for instance. One of my goals, I was talking about this with one of our supporters, Rill, over the weekend. What I need to do is, since I can monetize the channel, I need to set up my Shopify channel and then start dumping art that I make into the Shopify for people to pick up for a few bucks. But I haven't gotten there yet. But this is like an example of where we can take a piece that we've been building for a specific page on stream that we can extract into a separate piece of art that people can pick up if they wanted to. No, I don't want to save that. I don't need to. But I'm not there yet. I've got some thinking process inside me that needs fixing, but I'm working on it. So I'm paranoid about really making a business out of the creative process, because I did that in the early 2000s, doing freelance illustration for RPGs back when print on demand first happened. And then I got into character art, like character commissions. And I can, if I'm willing to go through the hustle of it, I can make some decent money doing commission work like that. But it monetizes the entire process, and it forces me to do a lot of administrative work and a lot of marketing and advertising and negotiating, and it's a huge sink in time. It would basically add 20 hours of effort to doing this just for the pursuit of making more money with it. So that doesn't really fill me with any kind of joy. Hey Fox, how you doing? I recognize the value of it. If I can gain more momentum with this, potentially create a secondary, like a stable secondary cash flow, I could maybe in 10 years replace my day job with this, and that's plausible. It's very plausible, but again, I am really trying to be delicate about entering that space, because I burned out hard in my 20s when I was doing commission work like this. And if it's my only source, and at the time that was my only source of income, and it just completely screwed me. And I ended up hating doing character commissions, and I got really picky about what kind of RPGs or other products I would do artwork for, because if I burn out, I'm not going to live up to my end of expectations, and I'm going to take a reputation hit, and I'll have an unhappy client. It's going to force me to work with them more to satisfy them on something I'm already not inspired to do, because the only reason I took your gig in the first place is because I needed to eat or pay my rent, and that is a horrible place to be in for art, for me. So other people might like the challenge of that pressure of figuring out how to find the clients and find the joy in the work that they've done, because finding the clients and doing the work was their joy to begin with. That was never my joy. So I'm just really cautious about making this thing roll. But it's something that I pay a little bit of service to in my mind, knowing that that is ultimately what I would dream to do, to turn this into. Like if this was my day job and I had an extra 40 hours a week to do this, then basically what that would mean is that I'd have the 20 hours available to do all the admin and all of the marketing and all that stuff, and have an additional 20 hours for me to potentially free up more of my evening time or my weekends, so that I could have more time with friends and family and potentially run another game with people, maybe even in person. So there's a ton of benefits to establishing that, but God, the lift is just, I don't have it in me right now. It's not where the muse wants me to go. It's not what she wants me to do. So there you go. But God, I love this cityscape. This is so as a result, I get to focus specifically on the art of it for the sake of art, to make things look the way that I want them to be uncompromising in the vision and the joy that I have in creating these things, which ultimately makes a better product, which helps reinforce that maybe someday I could actually do this. So, cheers. Sorry, I'm on a money rant today. Apparently, I do that occasionally, and thank you to the good graces of everyone that's willing to listen to me, because that's part of the struggle. Part of the struggle of being in art is, how do you justify the time that it takes to produce things, considering the scale of people that could potentially see what you're doing versus how much effort are you willing to put into them seeing it in the first place. So that's why I like the DMsGuild. It's a focused marketplace of ideas that people are actively looking for answers to the questions that, looking for the answers that are there for the questions that they have about how can I do X, Y, or Z, or, like in my game, or what additional options exist out there for my character to do A, B, C. It's kind of what the DMsGuild is for, is look at the possibilities of what you can do with the 5e game engine and D&D in general. And new DMs or bored veteran DMs can often use that as a source of inspiration for what's next. Because they want to do more, but they might not necessarily know what more to do. The game isn't, the WotC isn't really attempting to teach people how to create their own content and how to improvise and be their own source of production, because that takes away from their bottom line. Why would they teach you how to fish when they sell fish for a living? You know? But that's what this channel is about, is teaching you, like, what does it take to make these kind of things? What kind of effort goes into it? What kind of expectations can you have? And doing the work, actually putting the work into to show how this stuff flows. So that's enough self-aggrandizement, I guess. I'm just messing around with the clouds here because there's a little twib here that caught my eye, and that created this cascade of me wanting to push and smudge pixels. And when I do that, I just end up talking about whatever it is I'm going to talk about. So here we are, waking up from that conversation and reinserting ourselves. So obviously, okay, great. So now that I've woken up from that conversation, thanks for going for the ride with me, guys. Anyone that has any kind of questions or anything that stirs up, most of my brain space is not being spent on artwork when I'm doing stuff like this. So that leaves my mind open to be able to chatterbox about topics of conversation. So anyone that's hanging out in the channel that's got questions about anything, either D&D or the production process or art, you are most welcome to ask, but that is not specifically a request for an open mic. It's just you're welcome to. I'm going to ramble about whatever I end up rambling about, and if you catch me, I'll ramble about whatever it is that you want me to ramble about. So there you go. But yeah, I like how this looks. I like how this looks. I'm very, very happy. All of these buildings need toppers, right? So that's basically where we're at in the process, is creating toppers, and then we're going to save the three floating citadels. We're going to save those last. Once we get all the lighting squared away, so it's more organic like this. Once we get that all squared away on these structures, then we'll flow into the toppers, and then we'll flow into the floating rocks, and then we'll move back into the foreground. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Defected? You do have a question about art. Are those queen stacks or buildings or both? Right, exactly. That's what I was talking about, right? This is a basic texture grid that we have for the buildings. But then, as you can see back here, is an example of more organic lighting. So when you pan back and look at that and look at this one, you can see that there's gaps in the pattern, right? So that's what we're trying to achieve. So the sky looks good. Let's staple that shut again. Backlighting. The reference that I'm using, that I'm getting this lighting from, is here. Yeah, that's a very similar light source to what I've got going on in my buildings. So this is I honestly don't know who did this illustration, but it's listed as Sharn. Look, a floating structure of buildings above the rest of it. That qualifies for Sharn in the real world. So, but yeah, I filled it in as a texture, as a pattern, and then we did the lighting so that the lights kind of curve around, so it has that coin-like look to it. But now we're going to go in and start adding gaps. So we've got our square pixel. And let's go to front lights. See, you can make gaps. So I'm just gonna add some. I'm just gonna add in some block gaps here for now. And then I can, when we're working on this, I can drop the opacity down to 20% and dot out some of these. This is how there's an interesting topic about symbols versus illustration, where symbols are shorthanding what it is that you're looking at. Aside from these just being just solid blocks of windows with light in them, we can also do things like carve shapes out of it for additional architecture, and then create the forms over that effect. So we can do things like that. So right now I'm just dotting at the windows to create gaps. And then when we go through that, we'll be able to see, would it be cool to have like a little outcrop or a limb of some sort out of these forest of buildings, you know? Somebody get this man res resource. Question answered. Right on. Appreciate the love, Def. I know where you're coming from. This is an interesting block. I might end up making like a little side tower piece here going on. But for now, we're just going to dot in here. I'm going to hit 100% opacity so I can just blot out the windows. Blot. 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 Blot that out. Blot those out. Blot. 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 And then we're going to go with a low lighting opacity here to dim that whole row down. And dim some lights down over here. And a lot of these, like when we actually add in the frame of the building where Rahid is at here, we'll add sketch and Rahid. And Rahid's going to have a table. So this is where our border is going to actually be at for the illustration. So this is the actual framing that we need. So what I just did is literally behind his chair. You can't see it. But again, if I'm looking at potentially posting this as independent stock art, I actually need to go through all the process, even though some of this stuff is going to be hidden behind Rahid sitting in his chair. But this is how it's going to end up looking. So we'll put we're going to end up putting some like paper, some paperweights, a little dragon skull or something like that on his desk here to make it look like he's using his desk for something useful other than just filling space. But all good things in time. It's a good thing that I have the ability to work on this stuff off screen now, because there's probably another 10 hours worth of work in here. And just because I'm absolutely just making these things the best that I can. You know, when it's warranted. So we'll have an opportunity to work on this some more tonight before bed. Knock down some more stuff. We'll probably get windows taken care of. Yeah, we'll do some dots like that. Add that one back in a bit. Good. There, already starting to look a little bit more realistic, right? Put a stripe there. That floor is shut down. But yeah, it's also, this is patterning the lights this way initially is also a good way for us to get a sense of scale and size. So once we start adding in like little decks and balconies and shit like that. It'll make these buildings come alive a little bit more. Right now they're basically just symbols of what a building is. Like they're pushing into reality, but they are far from being. They're not actually buildings yet. Right now, I'm using a lot of symbols that represent buildings. A stack of coins, as it were, with evenly spaced windows inside of a cylindrical form. The toppers that we haven't filled in yet, that'll help create that'll add more texture and lighting effects, so that it'll help ground all the lighting into a more realistic structure. But a symbol is what you use to represent something. It's not actually depicting that thing. Like if you draw 3 connected circles with 3 little, like here, I'll show you real quick if I can. Here we go. That's an ant. But it's not actually an ant. It's what I'm using to symbolize an ant. And I'm calling it an ant. Is it going forward, or is it going to the left or the right? You don't know. It's just an ant. It looks like this is bigger, so maybe that's the abdomen. But it's just 3 dots with 6 lines. And we're calling it an ant, but that is nothing what an ant actually looks like. If I actually wanted to illustrate an ant, I'd have to worry about like reticulated limb, or not reticulated, but like jointed limbs, and how do they couple into the thorax, and like what's the vents that it has on its abdomen. We'll need to have like little breath vents, and we've got the actual head of the ant with its antennas. And I need to research like what this form actually looks like, so when we build it, it actually looks like an ant. That's the difference between symbolism and illustration. Illustration is actually attempting to approximate accurate anatomy and an actual form and actual structure. So when you look at it, it's some degree of photorealism, as opposed to like a map. An upside down V is not a mountain, but when you stack a whole bunch of upside down V's next to each other, it represents a mountain range. So this lighting, these cylinders, these grids are representing a building right now. I'm transitioning from iconography into illustration with them. So, but that's the starting point. This is where we start with. So like the first part was like just laying down a grid, and now using subtle changes in the light around the curved surface to indicate form and volume and space, which this light illusion does. Now we're eliminating light sources from the building to simulate a more realistic a more realistic slice of life, where like there would be stuff. Like some of these buildings would be lit and some of them wouldn't. So that's where that process happens. There we go. Timely timer. And now we can punch back in here. That. Just want to break up the pattern a little bit. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. It's just got to look a little organic. Even when humans try to be random, it ends up looking structured or has some sort of logic to the randomness to it. There's I don't know what it's called, but I believe there's a whole science on recognizing the difference between random patterns and human influence. or intelligent influence, quote unquote, I guess is a better way of wording it. And we can end up adding smoke and stuff down here. Oh, look at you. That's something I forgot I didn't eliminate that I needed to have. Nice. Good find. We can blot those out down here. So yeah, we're using a masking layer to like paint paint eraser over it. This is just if I turn off, if I disable the layer mask, they all come back. If I reactivate the layer mask, the holes in the structure pop back in. So using a layer mask here instead of like a hard eraser is good, because I might change my mind about what's dark and what's missing. But once we get this texturing done, we can use the holes that we generate to figure like do there need to be any kind of like balconies or outcrops or whatever. It's a very simple structure right now, and we are in the process of updating and upgrading it. Let's do that. %. Lots of gaps. So I stream artwork Monday through Friday in the morning like this. And then on Mondays and Thursday nights and Tuesday, Friday lunches, we do game design. Tonight, Monday night, we're going to continue working on the Bastion campaign. We're working our way through updating and simplifying the orders that you can issue to your Bastion. And we got through crafting, empowering, and harvesting. We got through crafting, empowering, and harvesting, crafting non-magical items, empowering magical items, and harvesting materials to craft and empower with. Tonight, we're going to work on the maintain order for maintaining a lifestyle for the hirelings in your Bastion, or if you get into settlement development, the lifestyle for the residents of the settlement that you produce. I'm going to drop the opacity here and carve at some of these a little bit. So we'll work on maintain and possibly get into recruiting and research. I'm not sure how long we're going to run tonight. There's 7 basic orders that you can issue to a Bastion using the 5e2 for DMG. That's random enough that it comes across. I'm gonna trim that down a little bit more. So we'll do the game development. We're doing the development for that game system for us to then create a new supplement with that will then do the page layouts, and we'll do all the artwork for that book. And when that's finished, then that'll publish, like all the other books that are linked down below, onto the DMsGuild. So, but yeah, this is coming along. Obviously, we want to pay more attention to the foreground than we need to in the background, but we're just kind of dotting our way across the page to break up the patterning. Add that in. Add that in. Go back to 100% to knock these things out. Like if I end up eliminating that entire row, that kind of implies like there's some sort of structure of some sort like happening there, right? like kind of like how we have these lines going on here to distinguish shape, like a little bit of additional shape in that building. It makes it more interesting. These foreground don't have any kind of outcroppings or additional architecture that makes them interesting. Largely because they're going to get covered by a lot of, like, we don't need as much points of interest because of how the foreground is going to end up sitting here. But again, if we're going to make if we end up making a cityscape out of the stock art, oops, then we want them to be complete down to the root. Can I request a single gargoyle somewhere? Yeah, absolutely you can. It doesn't have to be super detailed, just readable as a gargoyle. If I can find a place to squeeze it in, I will. I think we have a couple of rooftops that can do that. I did put a Pegasus on this one, and I did that specifically because it's behind Rahid, and Rahid is your contact at the Council of 12. And so a Pegasus or a horse like that is often representing the knight chess piece, and the knight in the game of chess, the knight is the one piece that can attack things without directly attack. Like, you don't have to directly target something, like being in a line. Like a bishop, you have to be on the diagonal to hit it. A rook, you have to be on line on the same row or file to attack that piece. Or a pawn can only attack things that are adjacent to it diagonally. Like, everything has a direct line of attack in the game. Everything does, except for the knight. The knight can attack things by jumping over other pieces or hitting them at an odd angle. So the knight in chess often represents like conspiracy or tomfoolery, shenanigans, trickery, tactics. So I wanted to. I was inspired to add a pony on top of the building, and it just turned out that it was directly behind where Rahid is sitting. So like that was a little piece of art magic that worked in there. But yeah, I think we can have some gargoyles kind of sitting on some of these structures. I think that would probably make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think we can have some gargoyles. So we'll find a place for the gargoyle and we'll drop it in. Absolutely. So we'll find a place for the gargoyle and we'll drop it in. Absolutely. That was a really cool cartoon, by the way. Gargoyles was an animated TV show created by Disney back in maybe like, was it like 97, 98, something like that. It was about gargoyles that were slumbering for hundreds of years, and then they some sort of event awoke them, and they found themselves on the building of a New York building, and they ended up stumbling into a cop that took them under their wing, and hilarity ensues, plots unfold. But yeah, Gargoyles, and Disney's Gargoyles. That is an amazing show. Highly, highly recommend checking that out. Disney's Gargoyles. That is an amazing show. Highly, highly recommend checking that. Get rid of that. Again, patterns. Patterns are difficult. Humans want to create patterns and repetition. So you have to keep an eye out for that to make sure that you're not falling into that human trap and preventing your stuff from actually being random and spontaneous. Because humans will just absolutely just structure the spontaneity out of something. Give them half a chance, and they'll wreck it. I kind of want to block these out to make. Like to make a thing on top of this building. I'm going to block this out with the intention of making a thing. This might be a good place for gargoyles. We want it to be visible though. Yeah, it'd be visible there. It'd be poking through. I think this is going to end up being a good place to put some gargoyles. So we'll keep an eye. We're gonna earmark this spot here for gargoyles until something better comes along. Until something better comes along. And let's blip out some of these. Let's just shut down that floor. Mostly. Let's just shut down that floor. Mostly. Dot. 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 Nice, just some random scatter. Doesn't have to be anything too significant. Just want to break up the pattern a little bit. Doesn't have to be anything too significant. Just want to break up the pattern a little bit. There we go. Not so bad. Knock that one down a little bit too, just to. There, that feels better. There we go. That looks good. Pretty happy with this building. Just dot that. Dot that. That feels pretty good. Yeah, that's a nice next step. So this is coming along pretty nicely. I'm happy with it. Let's drop down into here. Actually, let's just hit this whole thing down in here. That seems like a fun thing to do. No, take this. Break this up a little bit. On the same row, on the same floor, missing lights just indicates dark. But if I have like a missing row that's vertical, that implies some sort of structure that is preventing lights. Like lights are not there. Like that is a structural thing that has happened that's prevented those lights from being present at all. So that's a thing. That's a thing you gotta think about. If I have more than two lights, if I have more than two lights that are stacked up on top of each other that are missing, chances are it's because the architecture of the building is preventing windows from being at that location. So you have to think about that when you're randomizing these things in. Are you creating language that you didn't intend? And I got this neat little diagonal going there. That's random, so I like that. That's random, so I like that. Break the pattern. Good. All right, go back to full. Just keep working our way across the canvas. That's what we do. Putting in the work. Putting in the hours. Working our way across the canvas. That's what we do. Putting in the work. Putting in the hours. Bop, 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 bop. Let's do that, and then bop, bop. 100%. Did I just run out of things to say? Looks like it. Did I just run out of things to say? Looks like it. I don't have to worry about this edge here because it goes off screen, but I'm just being self-consistent. I don't have to worry about this edge here because it goes off screen, but I'm just being a little bit back in. Just going to fade this all up a little bit. There, more realistic already. So we're going to work the back line here. There, more realistic already. We're going to do the same thing. I think that's enough. It's enough difference so that when we finish the back line here, we can start. I think that's enough. Actually, you know what? Since that's really boring work, I don't want to bore you guys further with it. So why don't we work on the foreground and just start adding in little details. Let's take your time, timer. What time is it? 7:30. We got 20 minutes left. Cool. Let's start in. 7:30. We got 20 minutes left. Here, and let's just start adding in some additional architectural language. Grab our roundy. I'm gonna grab like that. I'm just making stuff up. I don't know what I don't actually know what I'm doing. I'm just following my gut. I'm just letting the muse run and saying, hey, just create some more interesting stuff. And she's like, okay, I can do interesting stuff. I'm like, I know you can, baby. Create some more interesting stuff. And she's like, okay, I can do interesting stuff. that. This needs to go up to here. Yeah, it's going to end up looking good. We'll do that. Let's go with a more gray stone, a little bit lighter. Use a little bit of blue. There you go, defected. Some very, very simple. Very subtle, very simple little gargoyle shape. Merge that down. Uh-oh. I merged all instead of merging down. That was my mistake. Uh-oh. I don't like how merge visible and merge down are next to each other. That really just freaks me out sometimes. Thank God I didn't. I'm learning to look over to make sure I didn't completely screw myself by merging all layers, because you can't tell. You can't tell unless you look. Until I only have 100 keystrokes. I only have 100 brush strokes before I can't undo it. I only have 100 keystrokes. I only have 100 brush strokes before I can't undo it. Save. Meh. Not quite there yet. There we go. That should be good. Gotta make this guy a little bit smaller. Subtle, but they're yours. There you go, Zeph. Subtle, but they're yours. There you go, Zeph. Gargs. Perspective seems wrong now. Let's yeah, we can do that. We can do that. There you go. Subtle, in place. There you go. Subtle, in place. Merge those down. goes. Crisp that up a little bit. It's looking a little rough. Oh, that's my problem. They're off perspective. Thank you. Oh, that's my problem. This needs to be a little bit more crisp. There. Perspective is a subtle thing. But if you get it wrong, it kind of jumps out at you. Tilt this just a smidge. There we go. Yeah, a little bit of detail. It doesn't take a lot. Just a little bit of breaking the pattern helps add feeling to the piece. So hopefully those subtle little gargoyles are popping out enough for you there, Death. But that's for you, buddy. Hopefully those subtle little gargoyles are popping out enough for you there, Death. But that's for you, buddy. Let's merge those layers down. Merge that layer. No, we're gonna leave that one be for some reason. Okay, would the gargoyles be better up here? No, they should stay in place. They help ground the piece. I need to, for transform, distort, and bring that down a touch. Perfect. Good. Good work, honey. Yeah, let's do that. Let's grab all these. Topper. Yeah, let's do that. Let's grab all these. Topper. I just need something to break up that silhouette. Paste. Okay, so there is a flaw in the pattern. Okay, so there is a flaw in the pattern. Cut, paste. Yeah. That's the right way to do this. Copy, paste. That inserts nicely. That's good. Merge down. This actually needs to be here. Because without that, there's 1, 2, 3 door. 1, 2, 3, 4, and probably 5. So if I put the door here instead, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and an implied 4th before it hits the building frame on the other side. So that was actually pretty important to do. Down, and we erase here. Now we have the gargoyles back in. Oh, there we go. And that's my timer. So looks like I need to go start my day. I'm going to go ahead and pack up here. Yeah, it's 7:53. It's time for me to bail, for me to go to my day job. So we're going to leave this at that. We got our gargoyles in. So task complete. I can now, this evening when I'm off stream, I can attack the back row here to help scatter and randomize the lighting on these buildings. And then I'll start working on toppers when we come back tomorrow morning. We'll be working on toppers and then islands, and once we get those done, we'll fold up the city, and then we'll work on our building frame here with Rahid, and then we'll work on the pocket illustration over here, and we're just going to leave this to texture, so we still need to figure out the border frame. So I think it's realistic that we could have this done this week. So we'll have this page done this week, and then we'll move on to the next. We're running out of pages, guys. We're down to like maybe a dozen illustrations, and then it's done. So we're getting close. I'm sure I'll find little things that need to get worked on, but once we get the actual illustrations done, then we can start working on. We're going to take a break here at some point and work and readdress the border And then once the border is resolved, then we'll work on texturing blank spots to help blend the border into the page as a holistic visual experience, quote unquote. But that's it for now, guys. So I'm going to kick on out of here. Thanks a lot for being here. I'll be back tonight. I suspect I'll be back on at 6 p.m. tonight, maybe earlier, but 6 o'clock sounds realistic. That'll be 10 hours from now. We'll be back on to work on the Bastion campaign supplements. We'll be working on the maintain order, the recruit order, and the research order, and for lucky trade. I don't assume we'll get all that done, but if we do, that'd be great, because that means that tomorrow and Thursday night and Friday we can work on settlements, armies, conflicts, and sabotage, which I am very much looking forward to getting into. So that's it for now, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, blah, blah, blah. And I hope to see you all again soon. Say hey, what's up? Later.